On today's episode of GM Street, we will hit the Gronkowski news, what's next for Des Bryant, and the top 15 offensive players in the NFL draft, the GM Street top 15. We are brought to you by the Ringer Podcast Network. Be sure to check this feed, the Ringer NFL Show feed, to get all things NFL draft leading up to the draft and after the draft. We are also brought to you by TheRinger.com, where you can get all NFL draft prep and draft reactions. It is all coming up this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all NFL draft, all Ringer NFL. Be sure to check it out. But first, GM Street. Welcome to GM Street, part of the Ringer Podcast Network. It is Monday. It is April 23rd. I am Tate Frazier, and I am joined by the illustrious, the great Mr. Michael Lombardi in Los Angeles. How you doing, Lombardi?
I am great, Tate Frazier. Draft week. You're back from Italy. I can't wait to hear all about the trip. I'm excited. Tell me, what was the best thing you ate in Italy?
The best thing I ate in Italy, we had a little pizza party where we were lucky enough to go on this trip thanks to Inspirato, this villa in Tuscany. This is something that someone from Henderson should never be doing in life, but I was happy to be there with 8 good friends. We had this, pizza chef come over. There was a pizza oven at the place. We got to make our own pizza in Italy, drink wine, watch the sunset.
So you made the dough?
He rolled it out and made it all happen for us.
Who made the sauce? He did?
He made the sauce, yes. But we're all there, we're putting into the pizza oven, acting as if we're doing anything that's proper, but it was a lot of fun.
I don't know if making the pizza actually qualifies as putting it in the oven. I think there's a little bit more to it.
There's a little bit more to it, but we put the pepperonis on it.
And you went to Siena, and you saw all that. Siena's a great town. I love Siena.
The first bank in the world, the Bank of Siena. Learned a lot of history, learned about St. Catherine, one of the doctors of the church. The only other one was Mother Teresa. That's a woman, so we learned some great things there. They actually have her head in the church. I saw a human head from someone from the 1300s. I didn't know that was possible.
I think I walked through there. I just don't remember that. I know I was on the Plazio. I was down there we were walking around there, and so I saw that. I would like to go to watch the horse race. I really would. I would like to watch. I think it's around the 4th of July in August, so I would like to see that because the neighborhoods are so good. There's one contrada that looks like the Crimson Tide.
Oh, yes.
I got that flag.
It's the elephant. So they have it based on districts. So it's usually animals that represent whatever district, like the
that's
goose
where I would live.
Or the snail.
I would live where the elephant was. I figured that out. So I bought the flag.
I like the panther. I got the
flag. I got the flag in my office. I like that. That was good. Well, it's good to have you back. I mean, you missed a great week. I saw Bruce Springsteen live at the Walter Kerr Theater. It was unbelievable.
How was Bruce?
Bruce was amazing. Bruce was unbelievably reflective. I think Bruce is doing this to thank people. Really, I think it's a thank tour. I think he's thanking and apologizing at the same time.
True fans like you that he's thanking.
No, well, I mean, I was applauding. Millie's like, I'm applauding and I'm clapping. Of course. And Millie's like, he's not looking at you, so just sit down. It was great. I mean, I thought it was unbelievable. And I could see why people want to go see it. I would go see it again. It's a journey through his life. He's apologizes to his father for the depression. It's really good. You have to see it. It's great.
I got to go check it out. Well, I learned a new word. It's allora, which is is a very common phrase in Italy. And I'll say allora now because, prego. Now we have to get back to some NFL news. There's a lot going on in the NFL.
Yes, you missed a lot.
A lot of big topics. I will say this one last thing about Italy. I was in Florence. Someone came up to me at dinner and said that they listen to the podcast and they love GM Street. And I had that happen in Cinque Terre as well. So 2 cities abroad. All of my friends were very confused.
Oh, man, I love that.
I
love that. We got to get their email.
Yeah, we got to go back to Italy and do a show there.
We should do it. I would do one in Milan.
Yeah, we'll do whatever we can to get back to Italy. We could
do one on the Via Veneto.
I may stay in Italy. I feel tan and I feel good. But Gronkowski is not feeling good right now.
No, he's not.
He says that the fans will see a freak leak. Do you know who Petey Pablo is, the rapper? No. So Petey Pablo is a rapper from my home state of North Carolina. He has a song called Freak a Leak. It was a very famous song, and he has this famous line, 24, 34, 46. I think the implication there is Gronkowski is looking for one of those numbers of millions of dollars from the Patriots. He wants to get paid.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are confusing this thing so dramatically. I mean, like they're saying, well, Gronk's mad at Belichick. No, this is about money. It's about money. It's about he wants another contract. I mean, there was a time where every year Gronk wants another contract. I mean, there was a time when at the Combine, Drew Rosenhaus had typed a letter, he wants a new contract, and he forgot that the rules state you have to wait 12 months before you can do a new contract. That's how much he's always trying to. And in fairness to Rosenhaus and in fairness to Gronk, it's hard to officiate Gronk and it's hard to pay Gronk. Because, I mean, let's face it, if we were just over in Siena sitting in the square and we were doing a fantasy draft, we would pick Gronk over Sammy Watkins, who's making $16 million, right? We would pick Gronk over most offensive players. So he's hard to do a contract for. This is about money. It's green. It's money. So money be green. Don't forget that.
Money do be green. And Gronkowski, so he wore motocross gear to the press conference, and he was promoting Monster Energy. He has 2 years remaining on the 6-year, $54 million contract that he signed in June 2012 right now. And when he was asked if he's going to play in 2018, he responded maybe, but he has to work on his riding skills, which is, I assume, his motocross skills. So just taking all that in, that is a whole lot to package in and to see where Gronkowski is right now. But it seems like football is the least of his concerns.
Yeah, well, look, it's a voluntary workout. I'm sure he's talking about he's going to be in good shape. I mean, Gronk works out. Gronk's always in good shape. The same thing with Brady. I mean, just because they're not there doesn't mean they're not going to play. I think, Brady, if he wasn't going to play, he owes it to the Patriots to let them know fairly quickly that he wasn't going to play, because as we enter draft week, this is the time where you need to know what's going on. I'm very confident both players will play. And I think, to me, the only thing would concern me about Gronk is if he doesn't have a great offseason, those injuries tend to creep up a little bit. And guys that don't really spend the offseason working, and I'm sure maybe he is, but you always worry about that injury.
Well, we hope his riding skills do well, and we hope that he takes off that motocross helmet and puts on a Patriots helmet by the time the season starts. Another big-name guy that a lot of people have been discussing and talking about his future is Dez Bryant, who we both know from the Dallas Cowboys, who was recently let go. He put it out there that he wanted to stay in the NFC East and that he wanted to go to the New York Giants. Ian Rappaport came out and said, although he may want to go to New York does not want Dez Bryant to come there. So now we're in a situation where does Dez go and what does Dez do now?
We've talked about this for a while. It's beyond my own comprehension why the Cowboys waited until the Friday before the offseason workout. Now, there's always a deadline with the Cowboys. That's why they operate that way, where if you the Cowboys could have taken this money they got back from Dez Bryant and given it to Sheldon Richardson on a 1-year deal for $8 million. Now, you put Sheldon Richardson on their defensive front all of a sudden, but I think there's a deeper lying issue here. I think this is make or break time in Dallas. I think the Cowboys front office is giving the Clapper as much rope as he wants to get the team that he wants around him. Jason Witten's talking about coming back, but yet he's auditioning for Monday Night Football, wants to be in the host. Now he says he's not going to do TV, so maybe he just auditioned just to do that. I don't know.
Maybe it was a favor, you never know.
Maybe it was, but his game is obviously not the same. I mean, look, we've said it on the podcast numerous times. The Cowboys have no skill. The Cowboys' biggest problem, they got Elliott and they got Prescott, and they're really not a very explosive offense other than that.
On the outside, on the perimeter.
Right.
Yep.
And Dez is now finding out that, it's not the same. I think Dez is an inside slot receiver. We have in this draft, we have a lot of tight ends, okay? And all those tight ends are really just inside slot receivers. Maybe the South Dakota kid can block a little bit.
They're just mismatches on the inside.
Right, and that's what Dez is too. So you have to weigh that. Where are we going to go? Sometimes teams like that quick Willie Snead guy inside. Sometimes they like that big Marquise Colston guy. And that's what Dez has to be. The problem is Dez has only played in one system. It's going to be a new system. He's going to have to learn it. Could he go to Carolina with Norv Turner and know that system? Yeah, I think he could. But I think that's the issue. And I think Dez, if Dez is smart, I think he has to sign one day this week, because once that draft comes hold, let me say this to you, Tate Frazier. Next Sunday, 31 teams. I'll describe the Patriots because they don't believe this. 31 teams think they're going to go to the Super Bowl because they had a great draft. Everybody had a great draft. There's nobody on next Sunday is not going to have a great draft, okay? Regardless of what Mel gives them, regardless of
the grades.
Everybody had a great draft. They're all going to be patting themselves on the back with a great draft, and they're all going to call everybody around the league and talk about, I liked your guy, do you like our, and it's all predicated on where you picked them, okay? It's all predicated. I had that guy going in the third round, and he went in the third round, so my sense of it is that's when Dez gets caught up, lost in the shuffle, because does he sign with somebody or not? And the Ravens, who are trying to assemble the 2012 Pro Bowl team, I thought they were the perfect destination for Dez, but they signed Willie Snead. The Saints didn't match. And so now I don't know how they can do that.
What about another team that's trying to put together the 2004 Pro Bowl roster, the Raiders up in Oakland? Are they going to look at
the Raiders have camp this week. They started this week. So John Gruden's on the field coaching. He can't wait to do it. Okay? By Thursday of the draft.
Taking the FFC visor off, throwing it to the side.
By Thursday of the draft, he'll walk into Reggie McKenzie's office and say, I hate every player on the team. Trade them all. Get them out of here. If you laugh, you laugh. You laugh all you want. It's true. Laugh all you want. It's true. This guy's horrible. I can't believe it. Which is fascinating because then they'll go into the draft. The Raiders, I keep track of all the players that monitor that come in and all that. The Raiders brought in 7 defensive backs for visits. Okay. Most of their visits have been all defense, which is what they really have to focus on, defense and linebackers. I mean, and when you look at Reggie's draft, McKenzie's draft, I mean, Khalil Mack, Derek Carr, and then there's been a lot of these guys that haven't really hit. So they're going to have to go in there. And I think John, by having this camp on these 3 days, is going to really get an idea about where they're going to go.
So we should see some movement there up in Oakland, you would say?
I think they're going to be aggressive. I think, look, Reggie's a good man. He's doing the right thing. John can get $100 million to sit back and watch somebody else build his team.
He's going to make moves. He's going to make splashes.
He's going to make some moves. He's going to do some things. And I just don't know how long they're going to control him from picking an offensive player. He will pick a tight end because the one thing Gruden always says is tight ends create the matchup. He gets that. And when he has more than one tight end, he becomes a more effective offense. So I could see the Hayden Hurst, those guys. It's going to be hard for him to pass those kind of mismatch inside slot receivers because those are the kind of guys that he would have. The Penn State kid, those kind of guys would fit what he does really well because they're not tight ends, they're slot receivers.
And we have one more move before we're going to get to, and this whole podcast is going to be the top 15 offensive players that we have in the draft, the GM Street top 15 offensive players. Willie Snead is a guy that he was with the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, he'd become sort of a threat there next to Michael Thomas, the two of those guys. He gets his offer sheet from the Ravens, and now it comes out that the Saints will not match it, so he will become a Baltimore Raven, will give them some help on the outside. When you look at that Willie Snead situation, you just brought him up when you're talking about Dez Bryant. He's basically a slot receiver.
Right. Now, that's a different kind of slot. So they go quickness. What I find fascinating about this draft is the Ravens are the only quarterback the Ravens brought in for a visit was Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. They're kind of sneaky teams that are interested in quarterbacks that are not letting know. The other one that's sneaky? The Chargers. The Chargers brought in every quarterback. Well, Darnold's easy to bring in because he's right down the street, so you can spend time with him. Josh Allen, they brought in. They brought in Lamar Jackson, and the only one they didn't bring in was Baker Mayfield. So they're really interested. Brought in Rosen because obviously he's here. So there's sneaky teams here that do it. I think the Ravens are a sneaky team for quarterback, even though their owner said that because of the longevity of Brady and Breeze and all that, they think Flacco can keep going. That's good in theory, but when you look at that cap number, it ain't good.
So don't be surprised if you see some of those teams make a move. The Chargers especially. I wouldn't
be surprised of all that. I mean, I think, look, this week's all about the lies and everybody's moving up. That's to crack me up. I read the other day, Lamar Jackson's moving up. Lamar Jackson's moving up. When did he move down? I didn't know he moved down.
Mm-hmm. This is his late push. It's been strange. We've been waiting on it the whole time.
Sneaking into the first round. You know what I like to do, Tate Frazier? I like to go back, and I don't mean this in any disrespect towards Todd McShay, because I respect what he does and I respect his work, and I've known Todd for a long, long time.
I watched the Mel Kiper and Todd McShay mock draft in my free time yesterday.
But I think the way you can really learn about this draft is to go back and look at the mocks right after last year. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to, on Saturday the draft ends, okay? Mm-hmm. And then Monday or Tuesday, all these draftniks. Gil Brandt tweeted out this week that the draft on Thursday night will get more viewers than the Masters final round. It's pretty remarkable, right? So anyway, that's how interested people are in the draft. So, and obviously everybody loves mock drafts because you see 1,000 of them. You can't,
can't hide from the mock drafts.
Next week, Wednesday or Thursday, some editor at ESPN will tell poor Todd McShay, put a mock draft out for next year, right? So it's fascinating. So that's really it's hard for him to do it. But what's fascinating about looking at that as an executive in the league, you go back and look at those and you look at some of the names in that mock that people, like for example, last year he had in his mock, he had Darnold, Allen, and Rosen as the top 3 picks in the draft. Okay. He had Barkley, I think, going 7th. He had Ridley in the top. He had a kid named Malik Jefferson as a really good defensive linebacker from Texas. Okay, so now I'm an executive. I'm looking at this list now. and I'm saying, whoa, wait a minute. Look, I didn't have this guy. You know who's not on his list? Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield wasn't in his first round last year. Now he's in his first round this year. So you're saying to yourself, why? To me, that's what you're asking. And then you're looking at some guys like Josh Sweat from Florida State. He's a freak at a workout, but he's in his first round, but he's not nobody's first round this year. And so to me, you kind of play around with this and look at the names, and you feel like it takes you back to reality of maybe maybe that some of these guys are hyped up more than they really deserve.
And you see how perceptions change over time, and when measurables, come into the to the conversation, it changes
and you
everything.
can use it. I mean, it's really a good tool to use.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, to me, it's the best way. Like Harold Landry, the linebacker from Boston College, he did not play well as a senior. Okay, as a junior, he was fairly dominant. So this is what this list would be based on. So me as an executive, I would try to go back there because you're going to get some bargains here. I mean, you're going to get some bargains. Like the receiver from Florida, okay, Callaway. I mean, it's all character with him. I mean, he'll either go to Cleveland, Green Bay, or Oakland. I mean, one of those three teams will be able to overlook the character and pick him, or Kansas City. And he's a top 10 talent. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But there's a lot of issues that you have to deal with in terms of, and I don't know what they are to the degree in terms of dealing with the player, but those are the kind of things you're looking for. You're looking for value, and maybe we misevaluated a guy because he was really good as a junior and he slipped. All right. And then the other reverse is, all of a sudden, how'd this guy all of a sudden get in our eye line? Mm-hmm. Like, how did this become? Now, he doesn't put juniors in here, so Lamar Jackson's not in here. But he thought enough of Josh Allen last year coming off of the season to put him in his top 5, which I think is interesting.
It's very interesting. And then you look at a guy like Calvin Ridley, who you brought up, we've seen so much of Ridley that it seems like he has been almost put down because we have critiqued him so much, almost like a Deshaun Watson type. We've seen him so many times. We can talk about so many weaknesses that we've seen.
Exactly right. The Bill Walsh used to say all the time, the more tape we watch, the more the perfect player, the search for the perfect player never ends. Mm-hmm. And so the more tape you have, the more you're going to be able to find a hole in a player. If you have one season of tape, it's hard you can't pick on the guy. But if you have 4 years of tape, you can nitpick. Oh, that guy was a bad game for that guy. That was a bad game for that guy. You nitpick on the player. Mm-hmm. And we all know this about college. It's about certain games. It's not about all the games. I mean, pinch me on Thursday, and we should do like $1. Like every time they all say, I watched every tape on this guy, or I watched just hit me over the head, because
because you didn't watch the Navy game.
You did. Why would you? Why would you watch a Georgia Tech game? Yeah. Why would you watch a Georgia Tech game? If you want,
watch out for the option. It may come back.
So anyway, that's where I think is interesting. So you go back and you look at that, and you say to yourself, yeah, maybe these players a little bit, the media's taking them on. I think Mayfield's a perfect example of the media just really like, oh, he's got it. When you hear that, mm-hmm. It, like, what does that mean? He has it.
It means he's missing something else.
Anyway.
All right, Lombardi, now it's time for the ZipRecruiter Smartest Move of the Week, brought to you by ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. With the draft being on Thursday, as we both know, the NFL draft is this Thursday. What move could be the smartest play of the week, brought to you by ZipRecruiter? What do we have?
I would think the Giants taking Chubb as a second pick overall. Not that I don't like Barkley, because I do. You're going to see that I have Barkley rated very high in my top offensive players. But I just think Chubb is a unique player. I think Roquan Smith could be the second pick in the draft. I think the one thing about this draft that's very clear is that every team that takes a quarterback is doing a team that has a quarterback a huge favor, because there's a lot of good defensive players in the top part of the draft, and I think that'll really help them. So the ZipRecruiter move of the week would be if the Giants took Bradley Chubb.
And that was the smartest move of the week, and that was brought to you by ZipRecruiter. 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter find a quality candidate through the site in just one day. Try it free today at ZipRecruiter.com/RingerNFL. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RingerNFL. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And you just brought up the New York Giants.
Yeah.
Big Blue. The NFC East, we did learn that they do not want Des Bryant, but we've also learned that Eric Flowers is a name that we could see moving on draft night. There's been some rumblings that there could be a trade to get him out of town, to get him out of the Big G.
Well, they're going to move him over to right tackle, right? Mm-hmm. And so what is his trade value? I mean, if anybody, he's not a left tackle. He's proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's not a left tackle. So, I mean, what could they possibly be? I mean, I think the kid's really ill-advised here to not come to the workout. Like to me, like, I understand he's frustrated because they paid Solder all that money and they're going to move his position and all that. But the best way to show your frustration is to outwork everybody. Come in and work and do it.
And try to beat him out, maybe.
Because your career is not defined by what the Giants do to you. Your career is defined by what you'll do. And I think that's where these guys make mistakes. There's no sense. I mean, this isn't high school where you get mad all of a sudden you're going to pout. Like, come in and work. He doesn't have a whole lot of trade value. Maybe a change of scenery will do him good. I would suspect the Giants will use him to move up and around. Won't be a lot. And then they can move forward. Because one thing about Gettleman, I think if you go back and look at Gettleman's, he's had 5 drafts when he was in Carolina. he loves defensive front seven players.
Yes.
And so that's why I think the Chubb pick makes sense. Now, I know Barkley's a great player and all that, but I think when you study this draft, this draft is unique in the sense that it doesn't have a lot of offensive tackles in it. It has more guards. It's got some good there's some good backs in this draft, and Barkley is the best back of all. But then it's got really not a marquee receiver type guy in this draft, and then those front seven guys on defense. And I don't think you want to mess with that. I think you better take that if you can.
And it seems like it's already been determined and predetermined based on what the Browns are going to decide. They're going to take a quarterback, right. And then that number 2 pick for the Giants, they're going to get the de facto number 1 best player in the draft.
No doubt.
And people have their opinions, whether it's Chubb, whether it's Barkley. You even said Roquan Smith, who could end up being valued as the best player in the draft. But that's where you're going to see where Gettleman and the Giants value as the best player in the draft.
So I read this book, Deep Blue, by Gary Kasparov, the chess player, and it's really about artificial intelligence. It's about how he's beaten these chess programs, and he was one of the first guys to lose a chess match to a computer, and he had steadily beaten them. But what the computer was not able to do, or what they couldn't really program the computer to do, was to be able to analyze a move based on the second move. And I think this is really where Dave Gettleman is. He's in a 2-step move. So he's got to look at it this way. If I take Chubb, I get him for 5 years, and I have a contract after that I know is going to be, for 5 years, it's going to be really cheap, and it's going to be I can extend it. If I take Barkley, I get 5 years, and I don't know if I get another move. See, 1, 2, play the first move, what's the second move? And so you look at it and you say, okay, if I take and then add a third move to it, will there be another running back who is as good as or similar to Barkley that I could possibly get within this 5-year time frame? I'm not going to be able to get a dominant pass rusher. So that's, to me, the way you have to play this move. If I'm Gettleman, you've got to look at it as like you were playing against Deep Blue. Okay, 1, 2. If I make this pick, then what's the lasting effect as it goes forward? And that's why I think Chubb makes more sense in that issue.
And we talk about the infrastructure and the Giants sticking to the plan and what they've done as a franchise and staying consistent with who they are. Who they are is getting linemen on the other side of that front four and find a pass rusher.
Look, Gettleman takes Star Latui. He takes Shaq Thompson. He takes Vernon Butler. I mean, now he took Kelvin Benjamin and he took McCaffrey, but still.
Tony Ely.
Yeah, I mean, but he likes defensive players. I mean, when you look at it, I think he's taken, in the top 2 rounds, he's taken 5 defensive players. So, but my point is, I think you have to really look at it as a component of just not a single entity. Okay, because this draft does provide some uniqueness, but you can't just look at this draft when you're evaluating who you're picking.
And you talk about uniqueness in this draft. We're going to get into the top offensive players that we have. And number 1 on the list, Quentin Nelson, offensive guard from Notre Dame, 6'5" guy, 325 pounds. There's been a lot of comparisons made between him and Zach Martin, another guy out of Notre Dame that has obviously made a career for himself down in Dallas. A lot of people have him going to the Bears early on in the draft to give Mitchell Trubisky some help up front. But Quentin Nelson is a guy that you have number 1 on your board.
I think Nelson is one of the best offensive line prospects I've seen in a long, long time. I mean, he dominates. You watch the North Carolina State has 4 defensive linemen that are going to play in the NFL. One kid got hurt during the thing, but this kid is just he is truly a guy that can pass protect. He gets movement in the run game. To me, he's a blue chip right away Pro Bowl player. And when you get an opportunity to pick one of those guys, it's hard to find. People say, well, you can find guards. Good luck, okay? Good luck finding guards all the time. They're not easy to find. I don't want to pick a guard in the top 5 picks in the draft. I mean, the last time this happened, Chance Warmack went and then Jonathan Cooper went. Both guys have not had great careers. Mm-hmm. But to me, this kid's unique on what he does on tape.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, I know the Jonathan Cooper pick going 8th and obviously Chance Warmack as well. Those early picks, do you think that scares people away from maybe taking Quentin Nelson a little bit earlier?
No, again, let's go back to Deep Blue. If you take Nelson, okay, then you're taking a 5-year player at an economic value for 5 years, plus you're getting another 5-year deal. It's going to be really expensive, but you're getting a blue chip player. So you're talking about really, I mean, this is as good as it gets. And the teams in this draft, I'll say it again, the teams that don't need quarterbacks are going to benefit, especially picking high. And I think this guy is really a blue chip player.
All right, number 2 on the board, we have Saquon Barkley, running back out of Penn State. Sean Payton famously said at the NFL Combine that he's the best running back prospect that he has seen in 25 years. Obviously, the upside with Barkley is, the passing game skills that he has. He has a body built for the NFL, and a lot of people think that he is the best overall prospect in the draft.
Yeah, I don't think he's the best overall prospect in the draft because I think the position lends itself. I know everybody gets caught up with Zeke Elliott, but look, I think you can. Look, it's hard to find defensive ends. It's hard to find guys like Roquan Smith who play linebacker who can affect the game on 4 downs. Mm-hmm. It's hard to find the Edwards kid from Virginia Tech who impact the game tremendously. And now I know there's a lot of debate internally about Edwards, not in the NFL about Edwards as Tremaine Edwards as a pick, but how great he can become. But I think it's hard to find that. Backs, you can find some, and I think that's the reality here. I mean, look, I think he is. Let's compare him to cars. Is he a Bentley? Yeah, but you can drive a Porsche and have a nice ride too. It just might not be a Bentley, mm-hmm. right? Like, why do I have to pay for a Bentley? That to me is where I am with Barkley. Like, why do I have to pay? I admire his talent. I think he'll be really good in the passing game, and I think 230 pounds out in the flat who can catch the ball, plus he can affect the game on return. I love that. But why do I want to pay for a Bentley? Like, if I bought a Porsche, maybe I can buy another Porsche. Mm-hmm. Would I rather have 2 Porsches than 1 Bentley?
And do you have a chance for, Barkley is like a Reggie Bush sort of thing where you have to cater an offense to Barkley for it to be,
No,
successful?
I think he could fit into any offense. I really do. I mean, but I think what you want to do is how he's going to impact the passing game. To me, that's the key component right mm-hmm. there. And can he impact the passing game? I think that's really where it comes down to.
And we've seen the comparison to Le'Veon Bell. That's probably the number one.
Yeah, but Le'Veon's picked in the second round. Mm-hmm. Again, nobody thought he was going to be the Bentley.
And it's the value of the pick where you take him.
Right.
And that's what it comes back
to.
And
it's
Barkley.
What you can't get. I mean, to me, I believe the top 5 is what you can't pay for. You can't pay for. It's hard to pay for a guard. I mean, people say, well, look how these guards that Andrew Norvell went to Jacksonville got paid a king's ransom. Mm-hmm. So I think it's hard to find that.
Absolutely. And number 3 on the board, we have Lamar Jackson, quarterback out of Louisville.
I went back and forth on this, and, I just finally said, you know what, I'm going to go by the tape. I mean, Lamar Jackson's the best player on the tape in terms of playing quarterback. And I know there's a lot of risk with Lamar Jackson. I know there's a lot of downside. I mean, I know that there's people at Louisville that are critiquing his mental aspects or what he's doing. But, they're also the same people that talked about Ryan Mallett really highly. So you got to take that with a grain of salt and put it off. I watched every game of Louisville. I hate to sound like them, hit me over the head, because of Matthew. My son was there. So yes. I got to know it. I got to feel it. I got to live it. And I just think the guy's a dynamic player. And what bothers me the most, Tate Frazier, is how Michael Vick impacted the NFL with his style of play. Okay. And he revolutionized the NFL with his style of play.
He was a
pioneer. And he was dominant. Okay, and then we watched Deshaun Watson take that and take it up a step. And now nobody seems to think Lamar Jackson can do that, and he's better than both players. Michael Vick readily admits he's better than him. So for me, I'm going with the tape. Like, I think there's teams that are willing to change their offense to fit Lamar Jackson in. I think he'll definitely be a first-round pick. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I think he'll be an absolute impact player. That's why I made him 3rd.
And Lamar Jackson, we talked about the oversaturation. We have seen so much of Lamar Jackson because he came on the scene so quickly, and he seemed to get picked apart. People said, he misses throws. He gets a little loose sometimes when he gets outside the pocket. But those are the things that also make him great when he gets outside the pocket. He can do some things that not many people can do.
Nobody can do. And I think that he can also make some throws from the pocket. I mean, we've seen this. I mean, he can make some tight window throws from the pocket. Is he accurate? Not all the time. I mean, Deshaun Watson wasn't accurate all the time, but I just think this guy can change the game, and I think he's going to be hard to defend. I think whenever you get a guy that can change the game, and this is where I think it becomes a real issue. There's a lot of people talk about vertical speed. Mm-hmm. They talk about the game is played vertically. But where the Patriots lost the Super Bowl was because they couldn't defend the width of the field. Their speed from the width
from side to side
was not good. Mm-hmm. Okay, it really wasn't, and it's always been that way because the Patriots like big linebackers who are thumpers. Okay, and there's certain teams that still like that style, and so the width of the field becomes a problem. When you take Lamar Jackson, you have to defend the length and the width of the field because of his ability to move. And that, to me, is why I gave him the grade I gave.
Absolutely. And number 4, we have another quarterback, a man that a lot of people assume Todd Haley and the Cleveland Browns will take, possibly number 1, Sam Darnold out of USC.
I like Darnold. I think Darnold, look, if you want to go traditional and you think he has some upside, I think there's no doubt. The ball security just scares the hell out of me. I mean, his decision-making scares the hell out of me. But I think there is upside with the player. And I think if I were, put in a position where Lamar Jackson is everybody's got to buy into this. Like, this just can't be, okay, I'm the personnel director, I'm Ted Thompson, and I'm dictating to the coaches what they get. That ain't going to work. I mean, this has got to be everybody buy in. And so if you can't get everybody to buy in Lamar Jackson, then you got to try to get. Then to me, Darnold's the next best guy. I think he can play. He'll rise. And I think the one thing about Darnold that he's going to get better. He is going to improve.
And people forget. I mean, he did do the mechanical corrections. He had that loopy delivery that he tried to fix going into last season. So when you make those kind of big shift changes, obviously there is a downturn, and things do tend to get better when you continue to work on it.
And I think that we don't give enough credit. There has to be an improvement here. You're going to get pro coaching, and I know he's been coached this offseason. I know he's been working hard at doing all those things, and Jordan Palmer's worked with them in terms of correcting the looseness of the throw. But everybody's got to get better with the ball security, because look, let's face it, that's not what's going on in college football. Every guard in this draft has got to improve his technique. Everybody does. I think that's the upside that you see with Darnold.
And is there a chance that Cleveland takes him, decides he is our franchise quarterback, but we're going to redshirt him behind Tyrod for the year?
I could think that could happen. I do.
In the same way like Jared Goff was with Case Keenum.
I think that could, but to me, and that works there, because I don't think Cleveland's sure that headline Huey is going to be there after this year. So maybe that plan does work out. But if you had a normal situation in Cleveland where the coach and the GM came in at the same time, then I would play the quarterback. Let's build a team around them. Like, to me, Lamar Jackson, let's just hypothetically say Lamar Jackson gets picked by the Patriots. Well, they would build an offense around him, but that offense wouldn't be really unveiled until Brady was done playing, because they're not going to run the same offense. So they would need a buffer in between to kind of like Brian Hoyer, who could run the offense, and then they could go to some other way.
Robert Griffin III with
the
Ravens.
With the Ravens, exactly. So that's the way to think of it. So, to me, I could see Darnold sitting, but I don't think it would be the best thing for Darnold.
Well, we always know Huey in the news will make headlines and continue to do so. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Can't you wait for Huey's quotes on Tuesday?
It does seem like everything is leaning to Sam Darnold going number one.
I can't wait for he wants to tell the world who they're going to pick.
Yes.
Now, I'm told Dorsey won't even tell the owner until the night of the draft, which is really kind of remarkable. And, people are figuring out Dorsey likes cold weather players. Is it Josh Allen? Whatever it is, it is.
Let's get to number 5, another quarterback. Obviously, this is a quarterback-heavy draft, as we know. Josh Rosen, the quarterback out of UCLA. The nickname Rich Kid Rosen has been thrown around out there. He said at one time he's not going to pretend to be 50. There's a lot of people that want him to be myopic, is the word that people want to use for Josh Rosen. He is not that kind of guy, but he is 6'4". He is 230 pounds, and he does have a cannon.
He is talented. I mean, he is really talented. I mean, I think that we're letting the personality drive us a little bit here, and I think that's when you go back and look at what Todd talked about. This guy has got talent. I think the whole Jim Mora Jr. thing just hasn't come off the way it needs to come off, so that always concerns you. But I don't think you can deny the talent. I think you got to buy into the kid. You got to feel like you can really handle the kid, and then you got to really get a good role model around the kid. And I think that would be a really good thing. Like, let's just say a team that had a good veteran leader who could show this kid really what he needed to do. I think that would be the smart play.
Which I have to ask the question: what about John Elway? Is there a potential there if he goes to the Denver Broncos that you have John Elway to mentor him there in Denver? He's on the West Coast. It seems like a perfect fit.
Look, people could have said the same thing about Elway. I mean, look, Elway made the Baltimore Colts trade him. I mean, I don't think you can get any myopic more than that, can you? Huh?
Yeah, it's a little bit more than that.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I think we weigh too much. This is not, look, the best quarterback in this draft shouldn't be Mr. Congeniality. Okay? I mean, let's just put that right there. So, I think that's where I am. I mean, at the end of the day, Rosen's a good player. And if you need a quarterback, he'll give you a solution. Now, how good is he? I think that's going to be predicated on how much he wants to work, how hard he'll work, and how much you can make him better.
Absolutely. And let's get to the number 6.
Going back, did you see Bruce Arians' comments saying the Cardinals should draft Lamar Jackson? Now, Bruce wrote a book, right, about quarterbacks.
Yeah, I read it.
I mean, there's another one.
Listen to the man.
Listen to the man.
Come on.
Preach.
Come on, Bruce. Number 6 on our board, DJ Moore, the wide receiver out of Maryland. Built like a running back, really well after the catch. He led the Big Ten in receiving yards last season. A lot of people were saying he's like Stephon Diggs, playmaking potential also from Maryland.
I love receivers that, they always would move a receiver up on the board that has running back skills. Like, when I was a kid growing up, I loved the Redskins. I was a huge Redskin fan. Charlie Taylor, was a running back. That's why he wore 42 and they moved him receiver. And then that whole element of being a receiver, when you get the ball in your hands, like Brandon Cooks, for example. Brandon Cooks is really bad with the ball in his hands. Like for a guy who's an explosive receiver, he's just not good. He got the concussion at the Super Bowl. He backs out the wrong way and he gets, I feel bad he got concussed, but that was really not a really good demonstration of run skills, okay? So run skills for me are so important with receiver. And I think DJ Moore, playing at Maryland, kind of people overlooked a little bit. He's got rare athletic ability. He's got talent. He can run with the ball. I like him. He's my number one receiver, but there's another receiver I like. We'll get to him later in the draft that I love, but I love more too.
And DJ Moore, he had at Maryland, for people that don't know, Maryland had about 15 different quarterbacks this season. It seems like a trend with Maryland football that they can't find a quarterback.
And I think he's going to get way better. I really do. And I think the one thing you can't coach, when your mama lifts you from the crib, you're either a running back or you're not. And when you get the ball in your hands, it's a crib thing. And I think he has that crib mentality. And that's why I think he's going to be really explosive.
And the Ravens at number 16 is the team
to watch out. Oh, my God. How many more receivers can they put on their roster? Oh, my gosh.
Well, RG3 needs some weapons. Number 7, we have Josh Allen, another quarterback out of Wyoming. He has been targeted and claimed to be a boom or bust prospect, one of my favorite terms that people use. There's a potential for him still to be the number 1 pick. Apparently, Todd Haley loves his arm strength, so you can watch out for that. He has been compared to Cam Newton, which I think is
That's ridiculous.
The most ridiculous comparison I think I've ever seen. But Josh Allen, number 7, what do you have to say about him?
I think Josh Allen is all you have to take Josh Allen. He's a great kid. He comes with a complete package. You know he's going to get better. He's been at small schools. He hasn't gotten to the level. It's a little Aaron Rodgers-ish. Aaron Rodgers, we know Aaron Rodgers today, but Ted Thompson deserves a huge credit because he saw Aaron Rodgers as getting better, and he saw what he could do. And the concerning factor about accuracy with Josh Allen, it doesn't go away. It was a factor at junior college, it's a factor at Wyoming. Yes, you can say there's some drops, yes, all that. But controlling the football's got to improve. But just like the same thing Lamar Jackson, controlling the football's got to improve. I think there's enough intangibles here that make this kid an interesting prospect, and that's why I write him in there. I would be nervous about it, saying I don't know if we got it, but I think the kid will work hard to get it. I don't think he's going to bust. I don't think that's going to be it. I don't think he's going to be, could he be a starter? Yeah. Do I think he'll end up being a serviceable player in the league if he didn't start? I could see that because his character's really good.
And we saw at the Combine, there was a lot of players that came out and said they enjoyed being around Josh Allen, and he was good in the huddle with players.
Right.
He had all that stuff.
And he won the Senior Bowl, whereas another quarterback wasn't as loved at the Senior Bowl. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about him later.
Of course. And now, number 8, we have Isaiah Wynn, offensive, another guard out of Georgia.
It's a good guard draft. This is a kid who plays tackle, goes inside. Yep. He's kind of got some pass run. He can run block. He's good. He's physical. I like offensive linemen. To me, it's hard to draft them. It's hard to. You need about as many as you can. The depth. The Eagles won a Super Bowl. Their offensive line. I think their offensive line coach did a remarkable job. But these are the kind of guys. I think the guys that can play, move around. He can play 2 positions, right or left guard. He can't play center. He's played tackle. So if you had to put him out there in a pinch, I think he's a good player.
And you talk about run blocking and the need for run blocking as we move forward, and some of these guys that are so valuable at the top of the draft. This is the guy, Isaiah Wynn.
Right. And I think, playing at Georgia, the level of comp matters and the foot speed matters. I think that's really important.
And let's get to our number 9 guy, another guy out of Georgia that we saw shine, and that's Sony Michel, one of the best in blitz pickup.
I love this kid.
We've seen some amazing things.
I think I'm concerned. There's a lot of teams telling me there's a medical concern here, so he could slip a little bit. I don't know what it is, but some of those, the way the medical works, Tate Frazier, is there's like tables at the Combine, and each team, there's like 6 doctors from every team at one table and 6 different from another table. And so his medical grade is a little iffy from what I'm told.
So he's getting different grades from different teams.
Yeah, and it's a little, but this kid to me is the prototypical NFL back. He can catch the ball. He can affect the passing game. Remember how we have to evaluate running backs. It's block, catch, run. It isn't run, catch, block. And this kid blocks well, and this kid can be impactful. I love this kid as a player. I think if he's healthy enough, I like Chubb, the other running back at Georgia too, but I don't have him in the top 15. But I think Chubb's a really good player from the I formation, from the deep set. This kid can play from a spread, and he can impact the game, and he's going to be a problem, and you're going to have to defend the field horizontally. And to me, again, I've said this numerous times, the spread is made by the back. This kid will make the spread better.
He's a one-cut running back. He's a home run threat, and he was an absolute star when we watched him play on the biggest stage in college football. Let's get to number 10, Baker Mayfield, quarterback out of Oklahoma. A lot of people love because of his tenacity.
I probably have him rated too high here. I probably went. I should have put him 15th because I'm not in love with Baker Mayfield. I think there's a lot of things that have to go right for Baker for him to be successful. I don't see the Drew Brees comparison. I mean, Drew Brees was a world-class tennis player. I don't see this being athletic. This kid didn't get an offer. He had to go walk on to Texas Tech. Then he comes to Oklahoma. I mean, let's face the reality. If he was playing it, let's just put Baker Mayfield at another school.
Let's put him at Wyoming.
Let's put him at Wyoming. Okay? Well, he would probably be, as Todd McShay had him, not in his first round. Okay? Sometimes the surrounding evaluates the player.
The narrative.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And to me, I have the hardest time watching, if you just take his third down reel and just watch Baker Mayfield on 3rd and 7 against good level of comp.
Roquan Smith.
And drive the ball in there in a tight window, I don't see it. And can he elude and escape like Lamar Jackson can? Not really. I mean, remember the 2-point play?
Mm-hmm. We all do. And those are the knocks on Baker Mayfield. But it does seem that Baker Mayfield will have a team that takes it. Yeah, someone will take a chance on him.
I mean, I don't. Look, today we reported that the Arizona Cardinals love him. I mean, you better love him, and if you love him, watch that third down tape. I mean, every quarterback you got to watch the third down. To me, watch the games and then watch the third down tape. And if the third down tape tells you that he can handle against good comp, not against cover 1 in the Senior Bowl, not against cover 3 in this. I'm talking about really good coverage like Alabama or like Georgia run. See if he can do it.
And let's be honest, Baker Mayfield is one of those guys. If we want to talk about someone that's blown up in the system in the over the past year, I mean, from just one season ago, he is absolute balloon to the top, which is good. Let's get to number 11, James Daniels, another guard from Iowa. A lot of people believe that he will be a starter day one. He did have some knee injuries in the past, but he seems to be past those.
Yeah, I mean, medical's a concern here too. I think the guy's a 4-year starter. I like guys that play in the offensive line that can play center or guard. He can move around. He's a 3-positional guy. He's been well coached at that school. I think, these are the kind of guys. This is where this draft is heavy. This draft has got really good inside players in there. It's got good centers. It's got good guards. I think this is where the heaviness of the draft, this is where it's going to take off and where there's really no tackles in this draft. It's a hard place to find tackles.
Number 12, we have James Washington, probably the most unassuming Oklahoma State receiver. We saw James Blackman. We saw Dez Bryant. We saw all these big names, bravado, the brashness that came out of Oklahoma State on the wide receiver side. And then James Washington just keeps setting these records there, and it just does it so unassumingly. People thought that he may come out. He goes back for a senior season
and then does just dominate. I mean, to me,
dominates again.
To me, he's my favorite player in the draft. I love James Washington. I love James Washington. I think the ball, I know I put DJ Moore ahead of him because I think DJ Moore has ups. This kid gets the ball in his hands. He's dynamic. Calvin, people say, you like him better than Calvin Ridley? Yeah, this kid's physical. You try to bump this kid, and then he gets the ball in his hands. He looks like a running back. He just doesn't look like a prototypical receiver. That's the big problem with this kid. This kid's got a chance to be an elite player in the NFL. He was an elite player at Oklahoma State. He dominated. You couldn't really ever leave him single. No matter who it was, he can get open. He's tough. I love this kid. I think he's great.
39-inch vertical, 4.4 40-yard dash, and
he plays to it though. See, there's some 40 times on him that had him a little bit above 4 or 5. I don't care. I mean, this kid plays to a time that's different.
It's different in pads.
It's way different in pads, and he's hard to play, and he doesn't look like a receiver. That's the problem. He's not that pretty-looking guy. I mean, he's square. He's strong. He looks like a running back. And he's really effective. I love this kid.
Kind of reminds me of Steve Smith.
He really does. He really does. He's got the same kind of temperament, too.
Yep, absolutely. Let's get to our next guy, and that's number 13 on our list, Mike McGlinchey, the offensive tackle. Our first tackle in the draft out of Notre Dame.
This is not a great tackle draft. I mean, look, the UCLA kid and the Texas kid, those are the two other tackles. The UCLA kid played better as a junior when he played on the right side, has trouble with power. He's kind of an enigma guy to me. And then when you take a look at this kid, he's played right or left tackle. I think he's more of a right tackle in the NFL. It's going to be hard to find the pure left tackle. I'm not sure the kid from Oregon can do that. So to me, I put him down here. It's a very thin tackle draft. That really gives me problems. If I was tackle like the Browns, like the Patriots that need a left tackle, maybe they take the UCLA kid and think they can coach him up and make him play with more power, which is what they did with Nate Solder as well, because that was Solder's knock on him. But there's really no. That guy's a blue chip left tackle in this draft.
He has played on both sides of the line, so there is good news. He has some versatility there, so he's not necessarily aligned to the left side. Let's get to number 14 on the list, and that is Mike Gesicki, that is the tight end from Penn State.
Right, and I almost put Frank Ragnow in this spot too, because I think Ragno's a really Ragnow.
Yeah, Frank Ragnow from Arkansas. Yep.
Yeah, I think he's really been a good player. I think people are interested in him. I'm told he'll be a first round type pick. But this guy's Ragnow is going to be a starter. I like the Penn State tight end. I think the guy's got really rare athleticism for the position. I think he'll be a mismatch guy. And if Jimmy Graham is worth what Jimmy Graham's worth for the Packers, and Jimmy Graham has been worth it, I think this kid's a better Jimmy Graham. So, if I can find that, that's what bothers me about Lamar Jackson. When you can find a comparison that's real, and you know how good that player came in the league, and you can make this one, that's why I like this kid. I know Hayden Hurst is a lot of people in the first tight end.
Out of South Carolina.
South Carolina. To me, this kid did everything in the pro. Now, is he going to block? No.
Yep.
I don't think he's a great blocker at all. But can he block the perimeter? Can he block the star, which is the corner safety? Yeah. Is he going to be hard to match up to? Yeah, because he's big. He's huge, and he can jump, and he can catch the ball in balance. I think Ragnow's a good player too. I think I'll probably put them both there, and we'll go. But I think Ragnow can play both inside spots, but I like this kid too.
Okay. And finally, in our final spot, since we shared the two there with Ragnow and Gesicki, Darius Geis, the running back out of LSU.
Yeah.
We've always had good running backs out of LSU.
I like Geis. I think Geis, injuries this year, but I think Geis is a powerful guy, can impact 3 downs. I think he's another guy that can help in the passing game. Can he protect? I think that's going to be something that's going to get worked on, because we know LSU and that diverse offensive attack. Oh my God, it's painful to watch. They motioned 77 times to get nothing. And once they took away the tight end inside run, that was over with. I don't understand it. But anyway, I like that kid. I think he's going to be a good player. That's why I think there's there's more depth running backs. That's
what you were talking about, Barkley. So if you can find a guy in there
Barkley's
that has
the Bentley of the thing, but
you can get a Porsche as Darius Geis.
Yeah, you can get some other kind of. It may not be as good, but you're going to get some good players. And I think, to me, again, Deep Blue. Move 1 to move 2. How does it all fit? And it isn't just about players. What isn't like everybody thinks that what I'm talking about is if I get Geis in the first round, or if I get Chubb and then I can get Geis at the top of the set. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the 2 moves of this kid plus his next year of his contract. What does he do, and how does it impact me, and whether I can fill these other holes? Those are the 2 moves I'm talking about. That's why I think the players like this, they'll come out every year. You can always get a really good running back in the draft. It's hard to find those really good pass rushers.
You get a Jeremy Hill, and then you can get a Darius Geis.
Exactly.
Let's talk about some guys that just didn't quite make the list. Will Hernandez, the offensive guard from UTEP.
I like Hernandez. I think Hernandez is a really good player. I think he's done it. You could easily make the case that these guards are good. He's been really good in the run game. The level of comp always worries you, but I think he's got outstanding ability. He can play left guard. He can play right guard. He can't play center, so he's a 2-positional guy, right or left. I think the guy's a good player. I think he'll move up the board. I think he'll be a starter in the NFL, and that's really what matters.
You mentioned McShay. I'll mention Kuiper. He said that Hernandez is the best run-blocking guard in 25 years.
Wow.
That's a big comp for him. I want to talk about another name that is not on the list that was almost there. Deion Kane, a wide receiver out of Clemson, guy we both really like, but it was just right on the verge. He's a guy that you can get in the second or third round.
And Ridley were both the guys. I think this is a really more of a second-round receiver, second-level receiver draft. Ridley's a dynamic player, and if he has free release, sometimes I don't think he plays physical enough. Kane, I think the offense, he's a good player. He's got the ability to make plays. I just thought it was hard to put him in the top. I think all those guys are good players.
And then 2 other wide receivers that are sort of in that same mosh of guys.
Everybody has Sutton high,
Cortland
right?
Sutton out of SMU is another guy that comes up. DJ Chark out of LSU.
I know Chark worries me. It's hard sometimes to see his speed.
He's
on the
a late
tape.
bloomer, a guy that did well this season.
And he ran really fast. It's hard to see his speed on tape. He builds speed. It's like when you take a guy, like everybody says, well, the guy's a 440 champion. Really, those don't impact the NFL because they take a while to wind. It's wind up speed. You need somebody who can get there quickly. So I would be nervous about that.
And another guy that I wanted to, you mentioned, looking at some of the mock drafts from a year before, St. Brown out of Notre Dame was a wide receiver that everyone had pegged to be a top 20, top 25 pick.
Right.
And now he's sort of fallen off by the wayside. No one's really talking about him. But if you're a GM, the talents that's there. He just kind of had an off year last year. Do you take a chance on him?
Yeah, that's why it's so important as a general manager to do the 4 years of school. Like when you go to Clemson, as a GM, or you do them in your desk, you don't just do the prospects, you do the whole team so that the next year you're able to then carry over. Hey, I remember that kid. That kid played really good in this game. So you're living through Clemson. Like for me, there's 32 NFL teams, okay? And then there's 32 college NFL teams. And if you're a general manager and you study those 32 college general teams, let's say Oklahoma, all these, there's 32 of them, and you basically treat them like pro teams, you'll have a database of players so long that you'll be able to come in there and you'll be able to see this. Oh, they didn't have that guy. That guy, he was a better player this year than he was this year. Or last year. So it gives you a better database. And then the guys like this kid, you can move them up the board.
The GM Street secret sauce. You just heard it right there. One more name I want to throw out there that may be a sleeper in this draft. Jalen Samuels. He's a running back slot at NC State. He is a guy.
I mean, he does everything. I don't know where NC State would be. NC State had some really good players. Mm-hmm. I mean, NC State, they do a great job recruiting because I don't know if they're beating anybody. I mean, as a North Carolina alum, you should be pissed off at how good they recruit. They do. They do a remarkable job. I mean, Chubb's a high pick. This kid, to me, he's exactly what's going to he's going to get drafted probably on Friday or maybe Saturday, and he's going to go make some team. He's going to be a 4-down running back. He's going to play in the kicking game. He's going to play on all 3 downs, and he's going to make somebody really a good player. I love that kid. I think he's exactly what the NFL is about: versatile, multidimensional. And he can impact the game in his way.
So whatever team drafts Samuels will be very happy. We were talking about Saturday night, calling around the league saying that they love Jalen Samuels.
It's like last year we were talking about Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is a perfect example of if you do your homework on the year before he got hurt. Aaron Jones was a star, and then he got hurt and he kind of got lost in the shuffle.
How about Kamara?
Same thing.
Yep.
Well, Kamara's hard to do because Butch Jones didn't use him.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really the hard thing to do. Butch Jones didn't really use him. It's like Michelle from Georgia. I mean, he was used, but Chubb's there too. So you're kind of alternating things. Georgia's got so much talent.
So much talent. You mentioned Chubb. We talked about him a little bit here. I mean, he's a guy that, could be a franchise type running back. Is there a chance that some team will maybe take a chance on him higher in the first round or maybe even?
I think if you want to get in some deep, like if you're the Raiders and you want to be in some I formation like John wants to do, or you're the Patriots who do a little bit of that, or the Rams.
He's an old school back.
He's an old school back. And he can run it through there. Is he a great outside zone stretch player? I didn't see that on the tape. I mean, the kid from USC, Ronald Jones, I mean, he's a really good player too. He's got a lot of versatility in the passing game. The kid from San Diego State, all these, there's enough of them. So, but then again, Barkley's the best back.
And you have to find your fit. Any more thoughts before we get out of here?
No, Tate Frazier. It's a big week. I love this week.
Yeah, big week, draft week. We will be back to do the top GM Street 15 defensive players in the draft. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll be back on Wednesday.